Crystal clear, bright white eyes, not a single tear, not one drop of moisture. And yet there she sits, tissue clutched in hand, voice trembling as she delivers what might be the most unconvincing crying performance in reality television history. The camera zooms in, lingering on Robyn Brown's face for an uncomfortably long time, and what viewers see is absolutely nothing. No redness, no puffiness, no glistening evidence that genuine emotion has ever touched those eyes. Her own words betray her completely when she says, and I quote, "Sorry, I am trying to be clear and not be crying." Folks, she succeeded spectacularly at not crying because there were never any tears to begin with. TLC production has done something remarkable here. They have stopped protecting their fourth wife and started exposing her. The camera work is deliberate. The extended shots are intentional. Every frame seems designed to let viewers see exactly what they are dealing with. For years, Robyn's crying scenes were edited into quick snippets, carefully spliced to maximize sympathy and minimize scrutiny. But something has fundamentally shifted behind the scenes. The producers are now holding that camera on her face, letting the performance play out in its entirety, and what it reveals is absolutely devastating. This is not editing that favors a cast member. This is editing that exposes one. Let that sink in for a moment. The network that has built 17 seasons around this family has apparently decided that showing Robyn's true nature makes for better television than protecting her carefully constructed image. And make no mistake, the fake tears are just the surface level of what is being revealed. What production is actually exposing goes so much deeper than awkward crying scenes. They are systematically dismantling the illusion of Robyn Brown, piece by piece, shot by shot, and the picture emerging is one of a woman whose control over the entire Brown family narrative is finally slipping through her fingers. The production shift did not happen overnight, and viewers who have been paying close attention know exactly when the change began. Ever since the previous sympathetic producer, affectionately nicknamed Puddle Monkey by the online community, left the show, the editing has undergone a complete transformation. Gone are the days when Robyn's interviews were carefully cut and spliced into quick, digestible bites that made her seem genuine, relatable, and victimized. In their place, we now have extended uncut scenes that let viewers see the manipulation in real time. The new production team is not pulling any punches. They are throwing shade left and right, and fans are absolutely living for it. The evidence is everywhere once you know what to look for. There was the now infamous junk drawer scene where the camera lingered on the chaos and clutter in a home Robyn claims to run efficiently. There was the phone hypocrisy moment that had viewers screaming at their screens. And now we have these extended, uncut crying scenes that expose exactly how performative her emotional displays truly are. One fan summed it up perfectly when they wrote, "I am loving the long, uncut scenes of her fake crying because it shows how insane she really is." Another viewer noted that the old editing style used to protect Robyn by chopping up her interviews so viewers could not track her inconsistencies. Now the camera just rolls and the truth speaks for itself. What is particularly fascinating is how deliberate these production choices appear to be. These are not accidental moments captured by a stray camera. These are strategic decisions made in the editing room by people who have watched hundreds of hours of footage and chosen to include the most damning clips. The junk drawer was not a random cutaway, it was a statement. The phone hypocrisy was not an oversight, it was a deliberate exposure. And these crying scenes are not sympathetic portrayals of a woman struggling with family drama. They are exhibits in a case the production team is building against their own cast member. Let us be brutally honest here. Production teams do not turn on their longest-running cast members without reason. Something happened behind the scenes. Something shifted the dynamic from protective to prosecutorial. Whether Robyn became difficult to work with, demanded too much editorial control, or simply outlived her usefulness as a sympathetic character, the result is the same. The people who control how she is presented to millions of viewers have decided that Robyn exposed makes for better television than Robyn protected. But why would production suddenly turn on their longest-running cast member after years of protection? The answer reveals everything about Robyn's crumbling control over her own narrative, and what viewers are discovering is even more explosive than the fake tears themselves. Now let us break down exactly what viewers are seeing when Robyn launches into one of her theatrical crying performances, because fans have become absolute experts at spotting the tells. The anatomy of a Robyn Brown fake cry has been dissected, analyzed, and documented by thousands of eagle-eyed viewers who have watched her pull this act for over a decade. And folks, once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. The components are always the same. The downturned mouth that quivers on command. The tissue clutched dramatically in hand, despite the complete absence of anything to wipe away. The poorly done makeup that never actually smears because there is no moisture to disturb it. And those eyes, those crystal clear, bright white eyes that show absolutely zero evidence of actual tears. Fan theories about her technique have become increasingly sophisticated over the years. Some viewers are convinced she uses tissues to physically irritate her eyes before filming, hoping to produce at least a hint of redness. Others have noticed she often looks up at bright studio lights, presumably trying to trigger some kind of watery response. The most popular theory suggests she may be using vapor rub or a similar irritant hidden in her Kleenex, though even this apparently fails to produce convincing results. One viewer put it perfectly when they wrote, "My eyes produce more tears after a yawn than Robyn's do during her supposedly devastating emotional moments. The bar is literally on the ground, and she still cannot clear it." What makes this particularly remarkable is how confident she appears in her own performance. Robyn genuinely seems to believe she is pulling off these emotional displays. She commits to the quivering voice. She holds the tissue at the ready. She pauses dramatically to collect herself from emotions that simply do not exist. And yet anyone with functioning eyes can see that nothing is happening. There is no redness, there is no puffiness, there is no trail of moisture tracking down her face. Just a woman performing grief while her face refuses to participate in the lie. But here is where it gets truly calculated. Viewers have noticed that these fake crying episodes often occur at very specific moments during interviews. When a difficult question is asked, suddenly the tears appear. When she needs time to formulate a response that will not contradict previous lies, the performance begins. One astute fan observed that she uses fake crying to give herself time to remember her BS lies during difficult questions. It is not just emotional manipulation, it is a tactical delay mechanism wrapped in performative grief. Allow me to translate what is actually happening. Robyn needs a moment to get her story straight, so she pretends to be overcome with emotion while her brain works overtime to construct a believable response. The fake tears are not just awkward or unconvincing. They have become a weapon. Robyn deploys strategically to shut down every conversation she does not want to have, and the pattern is even more disturbing than viewers initially realized. The real purpose of Robyn's crying performances becomes clear when you examine what happens immediately after they begin. Conversations end, questions go unanswered, accountability is avoided, and Robyn emerges from every difficult situation positioned as the victim rather than the person who needs to answer for her behavior. This is not accidental. This is a sophisticated manipulation playbook that she has refined over more than a decade on television, and it has allowed her to maintain control over the entire Brown family dynamic while simultaneously avoiding responsibility for any of the damage. Fans have documented this pattern with devastating clarity. One viewer summed it up perfectly when they wrote, "Any conversation just devolves into histrionics and fake sobbing, and you basically have to end the conversation there." Think about what that means. Every time someone tries to address a legitimate concern, every time someone attempts to hold Robyn accountable, every time a conversation threatens to expose her behavior, out come the tissues, the quivering voice kicks in, the performance begins, and suddenly everyone is focused on comforting poor, overwhelmed Robyn rather than addressing the actual issue at hand. It is manipulation so blatant that it would be almost impressive if it were not so destructive. This crying as control mechanism explains so much about why Cody's other children have systematically distanced themselves from their father and his fourth wife. How can you have a genuine interaction with someone who weaponizes fake emotions every time you try to communicate honestly? How can you address real concerns when every conversation gets derailed by theatrical displays of distress? The children learned long ago that authentic dialogue with Robyn is essentially impossible. She has made it impossible by design. Any attempt to discuss difficult topics is met with crying that demands the conversation stop immediately. Any effort to hold her accountable transforms her instantly from the person in the wrong to the victim requiring comfort. Let us be brutally honest about what this dynamic reveals. Robyn has positioned herself as the eternal victim specifically because it grants her power. She cannot be criticized because criticism makes her cry. She cannot be questioned because questions upset her. She cannot be held responsible for anything because her fragility must be protected at all costs. And while everyone tiptoes around her feelings, she maintains complete control over the narrative, the family structure, and her own image. At least that was the plan. Production's new willingness to show these extended crying scenes is exposing the mechanism for what it truly is. Calculated manipulation disguised as emotional vulnerability. But there is one emotional moment where fans say Robyn showed absolutely nothing, and ironically, it is the one that mattered most. What happened when genuine tragedy struck the Brown family reveals more about Robyn's capacity for authentic emotion than any of her theatrical performances ever could. The Brown family experienced devastating loss when Garrison Brown passed away, and viewers who have watched Robyn perform emotional breakdowns over relatively minor issues were watching closely to see how she would respond to genuine tragedy. What they saw, or more accurately what they did not see, has fundamentally changed how many fans view the fourth wife. During discussions of Garrison's death, Robyn displayed none of her trademark crying, no quivering voice, no tissues clutched dramatically, no downturned mouth trembling with grief, just a woman discussing the death of a young man who was technically her stepson, with what viewers perceived as chilling detachment. The contrast could not be more stark or more damning. This is a woman who has cried on camera about her nanny leaving. She has cried about feeling excluded from conversations. She has cried about criticism online. She has cried about her relationship with Cody facing scrutiny. She has produced theatrical displays of emotion over issues that in the grand scheme of life barely register as inconveniences. Yet when faced with the death of a member of her family, the tears were nowhere to be found. One viewer captured the sentiment that many fans shared when they wrote, "I could not believe her not crying for Garrison. She seemed to not care at all. Ruined it for me." And honestly, how could it not ruin things? How do you reconcile years of dramatic crying over minor issues with apparent emotional coldness during genuine family tragedy? This is not about expecting performative grief or demanding that everyone express sorrow in the same way. This is about pattern recognition. When someone consistently produces elaborate emotional displays over small matters but shows nothing during moments of actual tragedy, it tells you something fundamental about what is real and what is manufactured. Robyn has taught us how she expresses emotion through years of performances. She has established her own baseline with hundreds of crying scenes, and when measured against that baseline, her response to Garrison's passing reads as disturbingly flat. Fans have been wrestling with what this reveals about her capacity for authentic emotion versus performed emotion. The emerging consensus is troubling. Robyn appears to cry when crying serves her interests, when it ends conversations she does not want to have, when it generates sympathy she wants to receive, when it positions her as a victim rather than an aggressor. But when tragedy strikes and no personal benefit can be gained from emotional display, the tears simply do not materialize. One might argue this is because real grief is too overwhelming to perform. But Robyn did discuss Garrison on camera. She had opportunities to show genuine feeling. According to viewers who watched those moments closely, she simply did not. If Robyn cannot show real feeling for a family tragedy, what does that say about every single tear she has ever shed on camera? The question is uncomfortable, but fans are increasingly arriving at an uncomfortable answer. The fan verdict has been rendered, and it is absolutely scathing. Evil stepmother, that is what you are, Robyn. There is no excuse for not speaking to your stepkids. These words from a viewer capture a sentiment that has grown from minority opinion to near consensus over the past several seasons. Robyn Brown has failed, spectacularly and completely, to maintain meaningful relationships with any of Cody's children from his other marriages. And after years of excuses, deflections, and blame shifting, fans are done accepting her version of events. The evidence is simply too overwhelming. The pattern is too consistent. The outcome is too universal across too many children who share no common trait except having Robyn as a stepmother. Think about what we are talking about here. Cody had numerous children before Robyn entered his life. These children had established relationships with their father. They were part of a functioning, if unconventional, family unit. And over the years since Robyn arrived, virtually every single one of those children has either distanced themselves from Cody or cut off contact entirely. The common denominator in this equation is not subtle, it is not hidden. It is sitting right there in her nesting rental, watching television with her nanny and producing fake tears on command. Robyn entered this family, and systematically every pre-existing relationship Cody had with his children deteriorated or collapsed entirely. Her deflection tactics have become predictable to the point of parody. She blames Cody, she plays the victim, she claims she tried everything possible to connect with her stepchildren. She insists the situation is complicated and that viewers do not understand what really happened. But fans are not buying what she is selling anymore. One viewer called her out directly. "You cannot put this on Cody. Boo-boo. You married him. You are the stepmama. It was your job to build those relationships. It was your responsibility to integrate into an existing family rather than expecting everyone to reorganize around your presence. And you failed. Completely. with every single one of them. Let us be brutally honest about something. A good step-parent makes an effort. A good step-parent recognizes that they are entering an established family dynamic and works to find their place without disrupting existing bonds. A good step-parent celebrates their stepchildren's relationship with their biological parent rather than competing for attention and resources. By every possible measure, Robyn has done the opposite. She has positioned herself at the center, demanded that the family revolve around her needs and her children's needs, and watched without apparent concern as Cody's relationships with his other children disintegrated one by one. But Robyn's isolation of the stepchildren may have been intentional all along, and the evidence has been hiding in plain sight for those willing to see it. The question that has haunted sister wives discussions for years is now being answered in the most public way possible. Why would TLC Productions suddenly start exposing their own cast member after years of careful protection? The shift is undeniable. The shade is deliberate. The extended crying shots, the junk drawer moments, the phone hypocrisy, all of these choices represent a fundamental change in how production presents Robyn to viewers. Something happened behind the scenes, and while we may never know the full story, the evidence on screen tells us everything we need to know about the current state of that relationship. Speculation about behind-the-scenes tensions has reached fever pitch among devoted viewers. Has Robyn become difficult to work with? That would track with the personality patterns we see on screen. Someone who weaponizes fake emotion to control conversations probably does not stop that behavior when the cameras turn off. Did she demand too much editorial control over how she was portrayed? Again, completely consistent with her need to manage every aspect of her image. Were there conflicts about storylines, about which family members got screen time, about how the disintegration of the family would be presented? All plausible theories given what we know about Robyn's apparent need to control narratives. The timing of this production shift is particularly telling. These exposing shots coincide with what is arguably the most dramatic season in Sister Wives history. The family is fracturing completely. Cody has lost relationships with most of his children. 3 of his 4 marriages have ended. The empire that was built around plural family life is in ruins. And as all of this unfolds, production has apparently decided that Robyn works better as a villain than as a sympathetic figure. From a pure business perspective, this makes sense. Villain Robyn drives engagement. Villain Robyn generates social media discourse. Villain Robyn keeps viewers watching to see what she does next and how badly it backfires. Industry insiders who have studied reality television production understand this dynamic well. When a cast member becomes more valuable as a villain, the protective editing stops. The unflattering moments make the final cut. The camera lingers on uncomfortable truths, and suddenly the audience sees what production has known all along. Robyn has apparently crossed some threshold where her villain value exceeds her sympathetic appeal, and production has adjusted accordingly. Every zoom on her tearless face is a choice. Every extended scene of her performative grief is deliberate. The people who control her image are no longer on her side. The production shift reveals something even more troubling about how Robyn has operated behind the scenes for over a decade, and the phone hypocrisy incident may be the clearest example yet of who she really is. The phone moment has become legendary among Sister Wives viewers, and it encapsulates everything wrong with Robyn's approach to parenting, honesty, and self-awareness. The scene plays out simply enough. Robyn tells Solomon that phones are bad for his body, delivering this parental wisdom with the kind of earnest concern that suggests she genuinely believes in limiting screen time for children. And then moments later, caught on camera that she apparently forgot was rolling, she slides her own phone right into her back pocket. The hypocrisy could not be more blatant if she had planned it as a demonstration. This was not an isolated incident. This is part of a pattern that fans have documented extensively. Rules for thee, not for me appears to be the operating philosophy in the Brown household, at least the Robyn wing of it. She has standards for how other people should behave, expectations for how the family should operate, and opinions about what constitutes proper conduct. But those standards, expectations, and opinions somehow never seem to apply to Robyn herself. She exists in a special category where the rules she enforces on others simply do not reach. The junk drawer scene fits this pattern perfectly. Here is a woman who has complained about Christine's housekeeping. Here is a woman who has positioned herself as the wife who has everything together while the others struggle. And yet production made sure to capture her own home, showing signs of the same clutter and chaos she has criticized in others. The camera did not linger on that drawer by accident. Someone in the editing room saw an opportunity to expose hypocrisy and took it gleefully. The lifestyle inconsistencies go deeper than messy drawers and phone habits. This is a woman who lectures about family values while her presence has coincided with the destruction of nearly every family relationship that existed before she arrived. Let us be brutally honest about what these small moments performance reveal when taken together. Robyn Brown presents one image to the camera and lives a different reality behind the scenes. She espouses values she does not practice. She enforces standards she does not meet. She criticizes behaviors she herself engages in. The performative nature of her parenting, like the performative nature of her crying, is becoming impossible to hide as production chooses to show these contradictory moments rather than editing them out. But the biggest hypocrisy is not about phones or clutter. It is about the family structure Robyn claims to have wanted all along, and how her actions have systematically destroyed everything plural families are supposed to represent. The fan reaction has become almost unanimously damning, and the language being used to describe Robyn grows more severe with each passing episode. These idiots really think they are believable, and I think it is sociopathic. That quote from a viewer represents the sentiment that has crystallized across social media, fan forums, and comment sections everywhere. Sister Wives is discussed. The word sociopathic appears with increasing frequency. The diagnosis may not be clinical, but the observation behind it is sharp. Robyn's apparent inability to produce genuine emotion while expertly performing fake emotion has convinced many viewers that something fundamental is missing. The eye-roll reactions have become so common they have spawned their own category of fan commentary. One viewer wrote that they rolled their eyes so hard they got stuck in the back of their head, and honestly, that tracks with the viewing experience at this point. Watching Robyn cry without tears, express concern without feeling, and claim victimhood while apparently orchestrating family destruction has become an exercise in exasperation for loyal viewers. They are not watching to see what happens to the family anymore. They are watching specifically to catch Robyn in her manipulation. The show has become a game of spot the deception, and Robyn provides new material every single episode. This represents a fundamental shift in how audiences engage with Sister Wives. In earlier seasons, viewers watched for the family dynamics, the plural marriage lifestyle, the raising of children across multiple households. Robyn was a polarizing figure, but not universally despised. She had genuine defenders who believed her tears, accepted her explanations, and sympathized with her position. Those defenders have largely vanished. The cultural consensus has shifted from divided opinions to near universal criticism. What changed? Production started showing the receipts, the extended crying scenes, the hypocrisy moments, the contradictions captured on film, and once viewers saw the pattern clearly, they could not unsee it. The question of what this means for the show's future and Robyn's legacy within the franchise is genuinely uncertain. Can Sister Wives continue when its fourth wife has become so widely despised? Can Robyn rehabilitate an image that production itself seems intent on destroying? Can any narrative spin recover from the accumulated evidence of manipulation that now dominates fan discussion? The answers appear to be no, no, and no. Robyn has become the villain of her own story, and unlike fictional villains, she cannot be rewritten into a sympathetic character. The footage exists, the patterns are documented, the audience has rendered its verdict. With production, fans, and seemingly even family members turning against her, what happens to Robyn next may be the final chapter of this long-running family saga. Let us synthesize everything we have seen. The fake tears that produce no moisture. The production team deliberately exposing manipulation tactics they once protected. The complete failure to maintain relationships with any stepchildren despite years of opportunity. The apparent emotional coldness during genuine family tragedy contrasted with theatrical displays over minor inconveniences. The phone hypocrisy. The junk drawer. The rules that apply to everyone except Robyn. The weaponized crying that ends every conversation she does not want to have. Taken individually, each of these elements might be explained away. Taken together, they paint a portrait of a woman whose entire presence in this family has been performance rather than authenticity. The irony is almost poetic. Robyn's desperate attempts to control her image have completely backfired. For years, she apparently believed she was succeeding. The protective editing made her look sympathetic. The quick cuts hid her manipulation. The narrative framing positioned her as the wife who was trying while others were difficult. And now that protection is gone. The cameras are capturing everything. The editing room is choosing the most damning clips. And Robyn, who clearly believed she was fooling everyone, is being exposed to millions of viewers who now see her performances for exactly what they are. What emotion does Robyn actually display authentically on camera? Viewers have thought about this question extensively, and the consensus is troubling. The only genuine feeling she consistently expresses appears to be smugness about her position. When she discusses being Cody's only remaining wife, there is something that looks like satisfaction. When she references her children having their father full-time while other children lost that relationship, There is something that might be called contentment. The crying is fake, the concern is performed, but the sense of triumph at having won the competition for Cody's attention and time, that registers as real. After seeing production expose Robyn's manipulation tactics so thoroughly, after watching season after season of fake tears and real family destruction, after documenting the hypocrisy and the coldness and the calculated performances, one question remains. Do you think she is capable of genuine emotion, or has it all been an act from day one? The answer matters because it determines whether Robyn is a woman who made mistakes or a woman who executed a plan. The evidence suggests the latter, and production is making sure everyone can see it. Drop your thoughts in the comments about the most obvious fake crying moment you have spotted, because at this point the audience has become better at spotting Robyn's manipulation than she is at performing it, and that is perhaps the most fitting legacy for a woman who spent 17 seasons believing she was fooling everyone.